Welcome to Gracefully Graying. I am your host, Attorney Henry Gorenbein. Today on Gracefully Graying, I am pleased to welcome as our guest Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson as she leads us in a discussion of some key issues in voting for our upcoming election. Welcome, Secretary of State Benson.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're a little limited on time, so why don't we just jump in and why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about your duties as the Michigan Secretary of State?
Well, in Michigan, the Secretary of State is the third highest official in the state, and it's responsible for elections and also oversees vehicle registration, the licensing of automobile drivers, and numerous driver's education and traffic safety programs. My team also helps promote organ donation, the gift of life. My main focus this year is to ensure elections are secure and accessible for every Michigander and to continually improve customer services experiences for anyone who needs Secretary of State services, whether it's online or in our branches.
What are the key laws regarding absentee ballots here in Michigan?
Well, in 2018, voters spoke up and demanded that we provide no reason absentee voting for every statewide election. So as of 2022, voters who prefer to vote from home can add their name to a permanent absentee ballot list to automatically receive a ballot at their home in every election. And that means for every statewide election, Michigan citizens can vote from home for any reason. You can submit your application through the mail or in person at your local clerk's office, requesting their ballot be mailed to you, and then you can return it through the mail at a local secure drop box or at an early voting site in your community.
I'm curious, do you know what percentage of the population opts to do it that way as far as absentee ballots?
Well, in 2020, we saw 2/3 of our citizens vote from home.
Wow, I know. I'm part of that demographic, so it makes it very convenient.
Good. I'm so glad. I think options to voting are important for every citizen in our state.
When does voting begin this year?
Well, voters can begin getting their ballots on September 26th, and early voting for the November 5th general election will begin October 26th statewide. That means you can go in person to an early voting site and vote just as you would on Election Day. And then on Election Day itself, November 5th, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. local time.
And when are the ballots actually counted?
Well, ballots technically start running through the tabulators throughout the early voting process, but they don't get totaled until the polls close on Election Day. All voters in Michigan vote with paper ballots, and most voters complete hand-marked paper ballots, while voters with disabilities or who have additional needs can use a ballot marking device to complete their ballots.
Are there any election integrity issues that we should be aware of with all of the turmoil that's been going on, especially with the challenges? And there were challenges in Michigan, which were clearly unsuccessful because the election was properly run 4 years ago.
Yes, Michigan elections are incredibly secure. There are professional bipartisan leaders in every community making sure the voting process and the work of checking and balancing and ensuring only valid votes are counted are carried out by high integrity individuals from both sides of the aisle. Michigan elections are also highly decentralized, so the work is actually spread among about 1,600 local and county clerks, which makes it next to impossible for any type of widespread coordinated fraud to occur, but certainly elevates the integrity and transparency of our process.
You consider our elections to be very secure, is that correct?
Yes, and the evidence reinforces that reality. Michigan election processes are both highly scrutinized and tested, transparent, and secure. And what I'd like to make sure everyone's aware of is that the use of misinformation to cast doubt on our voting processes and the integrity of our clerks and poll workers lead to a lot of people threatening those clerks and election workers when, ironically, those are the very people that are working to make sure our elections are run well, smoothly, and with integrity. But we welcome questions about how elections work, and there's lots of useful information at michigan.gov/vote. We also encourage those with questions to sign up to be an election worker. There's no better way to see for yourself the checks and balances that are in place and meet the high integrity people who work to serve our democracy than being there yourself on election day or during the early voting period to lend a hand and help ensure everything goes smoothly.
Tell us some of the checks and balances and securities on election day.
Well, throughout election day, there are polling places, close to 25,000 polling places all around our state that are staffed by high integrity, professional, bipartisan election officials. And they work to make sure every citizen who chooses to vote on election day and is able to do so and is a valid voter can get their ballot and return it and then have that counted in the counting board after the fact. We also do a number of audits after certification to reinforce and ensure all procedures were followed. And those audits consistently reinforce the accuracy of our elections and the security of our processes.
Now, the absentee ballots, I think they're voting on two sides, if I'm not mistaken, where one is the partisan election and the back has the judicial elections. Is that correct?
Yes, we always encourage people to look on the other side of your ballot to make sure you're voting for every office you're eligible to vote in.
And what are the youngest ages for voting?
Well, you know, you can register when you're 17 years old and pre-register when you're 16 years old, but you must be 18 on election day in order to actually get a ballot and vote.
And what about residency requirements for being able to vote in Michigan?
Well, a Michigan resident it is required, and you have to be a resident of your city or township for at least 30 days before the election day. You also, of course, have to be a United States citizen, at least 18 years of age on election day itself, and not currently serving a sentence in jail or prison.
What advice would you give to our viewers?
Well, I think in this moment, this election cycle, our votes are going to define who we are as individuals, as a community, and as a nation moving forward. And so I think we have to be critical consumers of information, ask a lot of questions of everyone seeking your vote, and think about or considering elevating politicians who instead of using divisive rhetoric, really inspire us to celebrate our common humanity. I think this moment in history demands that we come together to defend who we are and protect the foundation of our American democracy. And I know if we all can work together, we can ensure that democracy emerges on the other side of this moment stronger and healthier than ever before.
You've covered some very important issues. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, I want you to thank you so much for being our guest on Gracefully Graying. I want to thank our viewers for watching Gracefully Graying, and of course our sponsors for making Gracefully Graying possible. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, thank you so much for the hard work and important work that you're doing. I really appreciate your being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me, Henry, and I hope to see you soon.
Okay, you too. Have a wonderful day.
Take care.